how do we live for God in this city? Indeed, how do you live for God in any place in the world? There are three things that will always need our attention if we're going to live our lives well. The first one is communion. We need to live a rich life with God. We need to have God conversation, where God speaks to us and we speak to Him, where God's silent with us and we're silent with Him. The way in which this develops is really by just learning a few basic disciplines and learning how to hang around with God. Some say how to waste time with God. The more you spend time with Him, the more you get shaped like Him. I got married over 30 years ago. I wasn't ready for what happened to me when I got married. As I spent time with my wife, I started to become like her. Fortunately, this is quite a pleasant experience, but nevertheless, as I've spent time with her, her personality and what she is as a woman has rubbed off on me, and that's what it's like in your walk with God. The second one is community. If we're going to be able to live well for God in this city, we cannot do this alone, even though every impulse or in the culture is saying that's how you do it. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. In India, many years ago, I learned this from a group of Indian evangelists. I joined them, spent some time with them, went for a walk on the day I arrived, had a good time, walked back into the house, and they had taken my suitcase, had opened up my case, and were handing out my clothes around the room. I was in some shock around this, and I said to them, "What are you doing?" And the leader of the group, who'd had his legs broken twice preaching the gospel while he was in prison in Nepal, he said to me, "We're just getting to know you. We're just getting to know you." In other words, listen, tall, educated, white guy, if we're going to do this at all, we're going to do this together. And if we're going to do this life with God at all, we're going to do it together. The third point is mission. And what I mean by that is that we understand our lives are not primarily for ourselves. Our lives are for the world. One of the great myths of Western culture is that I am the main point of my own life. Everything we know about the gospel says that's not true. And we really become alive when we understand our lives in service, when we understand our lives in giving our lives away. It's in that process that we become like Jesus and give our lives away and receive life back. So these are the three things that we need to pay attention to. Our life with God, our communion, the community with which we are engaged, and understanding that we have been born for mission. If we're able to pay attention to these things, we'll live well in this city and indeed any place in the world.